Fans of history, welcome back. In this video, we explore the fascinating life of Hannibal Barca, one of the greatest military leaders in antiquity. Join us as we examine how Hannibal put the might of the Roman Empire in jeopardy, how he organized his tremendous army, and how the Romans ultimately dealt with this extraordinary challenge. So let's get started right away. The son of renowned Carthaginian general Hamilcar Barca, Hannibal Barca was a military prodigy who was born at Carthage in 247 BC. Hannibal showed extraordinary strategic ability and a strong determination to take on Rome, Carthage's longtime enemy, from an early age. Hannibal had the ideal opportunity to attack the Roman Republic when the Second Punic War broke out in 218 BC. He came up with a risky strategy to assault Rome proper while having a sizable force at his disposal. The army of Hannibal was a formidable one, well known for its variety and adaptability. Three key elements made up his army: his famed war elephants, who put fear into the hearts of his opponents; the heavy infantry, known as the Carthaginian hoplites, who served as the core of his armies; and the Numidian cavalry, light and swift horsemen from North Africa. Let's now talk about the serious threat that Hannibal's army posed to Rome. Hannibal chose to invade Italy from the north rather than the south, avoiding the highly fortified Alps. His brilliant use of strategy helped him to surprise the Romans. At the battles of Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae, Hannibal decisively defeated the Romans. His unconventional strategies, like the twofold envelopment maneuver at Cannae, proved disastrous for the Roman soldiers. The Roman forces would be surrounded by Hannibal's army, which would overwhelm them from all sides and cause significant casualties. The Romans were in a terrible predicament since Hannibal was posing a threat to their very survival. Rome was eventually able to reverse the tide against the Carthaginian commander thanks to their adaptability and tenacity. Publius Cornelius Scipio, afterwards known as Scipio Africanus, was one of the men who made a substantial contribution to the effort to defeat Hannibal. He knew that to beat Hannibal, a covert strategy was needed. Scipio made the choice to bring the fight to Carthage itself rather than confront him head-on. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, the two illustrious generals finally engaged in combat. The battle was won by Rome thanks to Scipio's creative strategies and his ability to weaken Hannibal's advantages, particularly his elephants. With this triumph, Hannibal's war against Rome officially came to an end. The Second Punic War between Rome and Carthage came to an end in 202 BC with the Battle of Zama. Under the direction of Scipio Africanus, the Roman Republic hoped to put an end to Hannibal's tenacious campaign and obtain triumph over their formidable foe. Scipio saw that a different strategy was required to oppose Hannibal's strategies before the war. He was aware that confronting Hannibal directly in his chosen mode of combat may have disastrous results. Instead, Scipio came up with a strategy that would take advantage of Hannibal's flaws and negate his strongest points. The two armies' formations were in dramatic contrast as they confronted one another on the Zama plains, close to Carthage in contemporary Tunisia. The famous infantry, cavalry, and a smaller number of war elephants made up Hannibal's army. While this was going on, Scipio's legions had a well-trained, disciplined infantry that was backed up by Roman cavalry and Numidian horsemen who were allies. The cavalry forces engaged in a ferocious exchange of missile fire and skirmishes to start the war. In an effort to create panic and destabilize the Roman formation, Hannibal's war elephants charged towards the Roman lines. However, Scipio had foreseen this action and had given orders to his soldiers to make openings in their ranks so that the elephants could pass through unharmed. Scipio's army moved slowly forward and deflected Hannibal's early assaults while using their renowned testudo formation. The Roman soldiers withstood the storm and maintained their composure behind an impenetrable wall of overlapping shields. Scipio gave his cavalry the go-ahead to carry out a masterful flanking maneuver after spotting an opportunity. The Carthaginian cavalry was struck from the sides by the Roman and Numidian horsemen, who then forced them to retreat. As the fighting continued, it was obvious that Scipio's plan was working. Recognizing the terrible circumstances, Hannibal made a brave counterattack attempt. Hannibal's assault failed, however, due to the better organization and discipline of Scipio's army. Scipio's order for his reserve infantry to join the conflict and surround Hannibal's army from behind marked the decisive moment. Hannibal's forces were doomed to failure since they were trapped and outnumbered. Unwillingly deciding that there was no hope, Hannibal gave the order to retire. Rome triumphed resoundingly in the Battle of Zama. The victory for Carthage and Hannibal's hope of defeating Rome were crushed. Significant losses were suffered by the Carthaginians, and this setback practically put a stop to their chances of defeating Rome. Even though the two commanders were at odds, Scipio Africanus showed Hannibal a lot of respect. After losing at Zama, Hannibal was exiled and sought asylum in several different countries before killing himself in 183 BC. Despite his inability to take Rome, he is still remembered as one of history's finest military strategists. The Roman Empire was shaken to its very core by Hannibal's daring campaign and tactical brilliance, demonstrating that no empire was impregnable. He was a fearsome foe because of his creative strategies and versatility in a variety of settings. With its varied makeup and well-trained warriors, Hannibal's army presented Rome with a persistent threat. He was able to engage the Romans on several fronts, thanks to the combination of strong infantry, agile cavalry, and deadly war elephants. Due to his adaptability, Hannibal was able to undermine the Romans' tactics and consistently throw them off balance. The Romans, on the other hand, did not give up easy. They adjusted their own tactics in response to Hannibal's advances after realizing the seriousness of the threat. They adopted new strategies, like as the Fabian strategy, which intended to steer clear of frontal battles with Hannibal's army and put more of an emphasis on sapping his forces of strength via attrition. Rome also made the most of its superior resources and labor force. They rebuilt their army, strengthened their legions, and hired new generals who were better at thwarting Hannibal's strategies. Rome's capacity to call up sizable troops and bolster their numbers proved essential in fending off the Carthaginian assault. Scipio Africanus's masterful leadership ultimately turned the tide against Hannibal. Scipio made the decision to move the war to Carthage itself after realizing that defeating Hannibal required a tactical change. By doing this, he pushed Hannibal to protect his homeland and pull his troops out of Italy. At the Battle of Zama in 202 BC, Scipio's and Hannibal's armies clashed, with Rome winning. This defeat effectively eliminated Hannibal's threat to Rome. The Battle of Zama signaled the start of Hannibal's downfall, even though the conflict raged on for a few more years. As the dominant force in the Mediterranean, Rome moved on to establish itself as an empire that would last for centuries. In conclusion, the bold campaign and brilliant strategic thinking of Hannibal Barca constituted a serious threat to Rome. The Roman Empire was tested in ways it had never been before by the varied composition of his army and its cutting-edge strategies. But in the end, Rome's capacity for adaptation, her abundance of resources, and the outstanding leadership of generals like Scipio Africanus brought about Hannibal's demise. But Hannibal's reputation as one of the greatest military leaders in history endures, indelible in the annals of conflict. The effects of Hannibal on Rome went well beyond the battlefield. The Roman people and their leaders experienced fear and uncertainty as a result of his capacity to harm the Roman Empire. They were compelled to reconsider their military plans, bolster their fortifications, and adjust to the constantly shifting nature of combat. In addition to their tactical genius, Hannibal's military accomplishments were noteworthy for the psychological effect they had on Rome. The Roman Senate and its people were accustomed to feeling invincible because they had seized large lands and vanquished numerous foes. By shattering that belief, Hannibal instilled doubt and dread in the very soul of Rome. The threat Hannibal posed was also heightened by his effectiveness in enlisting local supporters and winning the allegiance of Rome's adversaries. The Romans' own supporters were turned against them by his deft manipulation of pre-existing rivalries and frustrations. This not only made Rome's position weaker, but it also showed Hannibal's capacity for influencing people, making his campaign much riskier. It's crucial to remember that Hannibal posed a cultural and intellectual challenge to Rome, in addition to a military one. The Roman Republic took great pride in its commitment to honor, duty, and discipline. Hannibal, on the other hand, stood for a different set of ideals, a challenge to Rome's authority and her aspirations to become an imperial power. His campaign became a representation of resistance and a call to arms for anyone who wished to challenge Roman hegemony. However, the Roman Republic eventually proved tenacious despite Hannibal's early achievements and the fear he instilled in Rome. Rome's resilience as an empire was demonstrated by its capacity to change and grow from setbacks. To weaken Hannibal's base of support, they used attrition operations, new military techniques, and political maneuvers. The Romans also used their superior personnel and abundant resources to gradually weaken Hannibal's army. They used an encirclement tactic to progressively tighten the noose around him and restrict his range of motion. Due to this, internal strife in Carthage, the withdrawal of his friends and other factors, Hannibal's position was weakened, which ultimately resulted in his defeat. In the end, Hannibal's threat to Rome demonstrated the value of flexibility, toughness, and strategic judgment when facing a formidable foe. The Romans encountered Hannibal and acquired important lessons from him that helped to build their military philosophies and ensured their long-term success as an empire. The tale of Hannibal continues to be an engrossing account of one man's bold ambition, tactical brilliance, and the influence he had on one of history's most powerful empires. His legacy lives on as a constant reminder of the difficulties that empires encounter, as well as the extraordinary people who, through their audacity and inventiveness, changed the course of human history. Our examination of how Hannibal threatened Rome, the makeup of his powerful army, and the Romans' ultimate response to this exceptional menace is now complete. Come back the next time as we explore yet another fascinating historical period. Keep investigating and picking up knowledge from the amazing tales of the past. Till then, I appreciate you watching.